With us now is Dr. Geraldo Silva with the SENS Research Foundation. A pleasure and privilege to be with you today,
Nice
sir.
to meet you.
Tell our audience what SENS is.
SENS is an organization that's dedicated to fighting the disabilities and disease of aging through technology. So what we strive to achieve is through development these technologies that we collectively call rejuvenation biotechnology. Will be truly regenerative medicine to the point where we can reverse or delay the disabilities and diseases that are associated with age. So that's what we strive to achieve, is this rejuvenation biotechnology industry, in the sense that we see aging as central to all the diseases that, the main causes of death in the world, like heart disease, cancer, and metabolic diseases, dementia, So, and that's our goal, develop technology that will address that in a meaningful way, not just palliative care, but true treatments and cures for those devastating diseases.
Certainly essential. When you came to SENS, what was the standard, what was occurring at that time, and tell us about the progress you've made in the years you've been here.
So my particular project is on cancer research. So it's well established that cancer truly is a disease of the elderly in terms of prevalence and death rate. So the focus of the SENS Foundation on the cancer front is, and my project is particularly focused on a particular type of cancer that, unlike most cancers, does not rely on a particular enzyme called telomerase. So the idea is that every time a cell divides, the telomeres at the end of the DNA, at the end of the chromosomes, gets a little shorter every time. And what cancers evolved to do, they bypass that mechanism by expressing the enzyme telomerase. Most of them. But there's a particular subset, about 10-15%, that don't do that. And that pathway is simply called ALT, ALT, for alternative lengthening of telomeres. And that's where, and we're trying to describe that pathway, find out how we can inhibit it to stop cancers from growing, these cancers that don't use telomerase.
What will the product be that you produce in your research? Will it be some special medication or other treatment?
Yeah, some sort of medication, some small molecule drug that will be able to inhibit that pathway, the ALT pathway, in cancers specifically, so that we could treat patients that have this type of cancer, which is includes among one of the most challenging cancers to treat, like brain cancer, and lots of soft tissue cancer, but also bone cancer. A lot of those cancers are ALT positive. But yeah, so it will be the final product, we hope, will be some sort of a small molecule drug treatment that would specifically inhibit ALT and help patients in that fashion.
Considering where you were at the beginning of your research and where you are today, when do you believe it's likely that such a product, such a medication will be available?
Yeah, that's difficult to estimate. I mean, we can talk about industry averages where, it takes 10, 15, 20 years to go all the way from, bench to bedside, right? And into the clinic. As of now, the current estimates would be somewhere in that horizon, so still a long term, far away. But the hope is that we can also help cutting that down by different methods. One of our plans is to test drugs that already have been approved by the FDA or and other such regulatory agencies around the world. And the hope is that testing a lot of those drugs, if we find a hit, that will make it easier to get into patients, because that particular drug already has a history of clinical use in patients. So the regulatory hurdles would be much reduced. So that's one way you could cut down that time frame. But if you talk about a particular completely novel drug that has never been used in patients before, then we're talking more about the 10 to 20 year horizon.
So you believe actually it is many years away still before such an incredibly wonderful, essential drug will be available to the public?
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, it still takes a long time to go through all the testing that is necessary to make sure that it's safe, it is effective, and you know, you gotta go through the FDA process for use in the clinic. So, but then again, if we're lucky enough that we can find a drug that has the effect we desire, that happens to be already approved for clinical use, that could cut down that time a lot. But otherwise, the time frame is still the 10 to 20 year horizon.
But still such a tantalizing prospect, and the FDA actually is to some degree inhibiting your research still?
I mean, we're not at that point that we're talking to FDA about it, about any potential treatments. At this point, it's all basic research for now. So I would say not at this point. There's no FDA involvement. I'm just speaking based on the way the system currently works. So, but for us to get to that point where we need to contact the FDA and start talking about a regulatory pathway for approval, it's still far away, because we still need to find the small molecules that work in cells and culture, at least that our system that we're testing here. And once we have that, then we need to do animal experiments. And once those are successful, then that will be a good time to contact the FDA and start working on a pathway for approval.
Now I know that the Life Extension Foundation, Bill Falloon and his team are working hand in hand with your particular program. Mm-hmm. Tell us more about this association and where you're at with that.
Yeah, so we received a grant from LEF to work on our projects, and the specifics of our project are to develop assays, so basically tests that can test for the activity of this alt cancer pathway, that I described earlier, and that support from LEF was critical for moving the project forward. And we actually have posters around here. I don't know if you saw posters around here, basically describing the type of research that we support all around the U.S. and abroad. And that's one of those. One of those posters was one of the ones that LEF supported us in moving the project forward. So that was definitely critical, and we hope that we will continue that relationship to get even more progress on that front.
I had the privilege of interviewing Aubrey de Grey, who is in England right now. Mm-hmm. But what you're doing here is so very essential and really critically important. So much human suffering, and you represent a great hope for relief in the future for so many millions of people.
I mean, that's the reason why I got into this field in the first place, was to produce something that will actually help people and not just be just in the abstract. And hopefully one day something will happen. My goal, my personal goal, is to actually get something in my lifetime that will help a lot of people and release the burden, or ease the burden of cancer from our lives. So that's my objective.
This is really all very interesting, and I'd like just to ask you before we conclude this segment, tell us a little bit about your background.
So I was born in Brazil, and lived there until I was 16, and then I moved to Miami, Florida, with my family, and I started. I finished high school there, and then started college, and I didn't really know what to do, but I was good in like math and science, so I was drawn towards engineering subjects, and that's what I was doing at the time. And then I took a class, this sort of engineering survey class that goes over all the different types of engineering available at the school. for students there in freshman, sophomore years. And one professor from the bioengineering department came and gave a talk, and I was sold. I mean, I thought the amazing things they were doing in terms of developing medical devices and other treatments that would help people. And I felt that calling to do that, and never looked back. So that I graduated with my bachelor's degree from that institution in Miami, and then I moved here for grad school to UC Berkeley to do a PhD on bioengineering. And while I was there, I attended a seminar given by Aubrey, and I remember like the auditorium was packed. A lot of people were, had to be standing there, and I watched him talk about how, if we apply our minds, apply our knowledge from all kinds of different subjects, we can solve the problem of age-related diseases and ease the suffering of millions of people, and how many people die every day from age-related disease. So it all sort of fell into place, like I had this drive to do something meaningful and help people in terms of improving their health, saving lives. And when I saw Aubrey give that talk at UC Berkeley, it just inspired me. So when I graduated, I was lucky enough to have this opportunity here to do exactly that, working along with him and other great scientists here in this organization to do exactly that. But now focus on the anti-cancer therapies.
Geraldo, please tell our audience why you feel that this research is so essential.
So there are many reasons. One is, just moral and ethical reason of trying to save people's lives and ease the burden and suffering as people get old. That's imperative for me. The other reason is economic, right? There's a catastrophic effects of aging on finances and both individual and governments all around the world. So it makes sense financially, it makes sense morally, and another reason for me is that I believe that the biggest resource we have is the human mind, and the most humans and most people we can save that actually will benefit everybody.
With regard to economics, you're referring to the incredible cost of treating cancer patients nationally and worldwide. And if you find a cure sooner than later, that would make a very, very big change economically in our society.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly right. And actually most of the cost associated with the age-related disease happens in the very last few years of the person's life. And then by then we spend the most money and get the least return because the person will eventually pass away. So if you can avoid that as long as possible by increasing not just lifespan but health span, keeping people healthy for as long as possible, that's the main goal here. And not just keeping people miserable for the last few years as long as possible, just hanging on. No, we want the people to be active, productive, running around, working, doing the things they love, walking around, enjoying time with their children, grandchildren, and so forth.
So SENS research, with the cooperation of organizations such as Life Extension, are really trying to address the diseases of aging and improve the quality of life of so many people. I want to thank you for being with us today. A real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I'll be right back.